Just 1 week ago, the federal government imposed its job-killing carbon tax on the families and the businesses in Ontario. Now, we know that the carbon tax is going to increase the cost of heating. We know that it's going to increase the cost of fueling up your car. We know it's going to increase the cost of bringing goods to market in Ontario. And we know that a carbon tax is going to have serious impacts on businesses in Ontario, businesses that need to compete with businesses across the border and around the world. In recent weeks, along with my caucus colleagues, I've been speaking to many Ontarians, families and businesses that are threatened by Justin Trudeau's carbon tax. I've spoken to students about the effect of the carbon tax on their colleges and universities. $24 million of additional expense for those colleges and universities just to pay Justin Trudeau's carbon tax. I've talked to farmers who've talked about the impact of the increased cost of fuel, both in producing the products that we all rely on to eat and also getting them to market. And they've, of course, admitted that that cost is going to get passed on to families. We've met with small business owners who lose sleep because they already are challenged in a competitive environment to meet their payroll, and this carbon tax is not going to make it easier. We've met with patients and the administrators of hospitals who talk about the impact of a carbon tax on our healthcare services. Stephen referenced the costs locally. Those costs will be $27 million in additional charges, a $27 million healthcare cut, compliments of Justin Trudeau as a result of his carbon tax. We've spoken with seniors living on a fixed income who worry about services and worry about additional costs to retirement homes who have to heat those homes. That's an additional $16 million as a result of the carbon tax. And we've talked to families across Ontario who are now paying 4.4 cents a litre more to fill up their tank, 7 cents a litre if they have a diesel vehicle, just because they have to drive to work or they have to take their kids to soccer. These are real costs for real Ontarians, and they're really an impact on their lifestyle. The federal government would have you believe that it is a requirement to have a carbon tax to fight climate change, and that is just not true. Our Made in Ontario Environment Plan demonstrates that you can fight climate change, that you can have a realistic, pragmatic approach to this important issue without imposing a job-killing, regressive carbon tax. Our plan, as Stephen mentioned, commits to cutting emissions by 30% by 2005. We're already 75% of the way to that target because of the work that was done by Ontarians and the work done by businesses. So this target of a 30% reduction by 2030 is a target that we can hit without a job-killing carbon tax. But let me be clear. In the meantime, while we roll out our Made in Ontario plan, which we're doing, we are also going to take every opportunity to make it clear that Justin Trudeau's carbon tax is unnecessary. It's a bad tax, it hurts families, it hurts businesses, and it's unnecessary. We will be in the courts next week, as has already been talked about, with our court appeal. The province of Saskatchewan has already taken its case to court, and we're waiting for the decisions on that. And just last week, the Premier of Manitoba added that Manitoba will also be taking the federal government to court. In addition to that, we have the provinces of New Brunswick, Alberta, and PEI, two of which I'll mention are not conservatively led governments, all of which oppose the federal government's climate plan. We will make sure that we use every tool at our disposal to make sure that Ontarians understand the impacts of this carbon tax, the impact on their businesses, the impacts on their families, and the impact on our province's competitiveness.